the Bible.
In the beginning.
But Abraham.
Moses looked back at those who followed him.
For unto you is born a Savior.
Let them alone. They be blind leaders of the blind. And if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Bible Broadcasts, vintage stories and hymns from the golden age of radio. I'm John Henderson. Join me for an in-depth look at the life of Christ, as heard over the airwaves of the 20th century. Today, the story of Jesus, part 18, including the discussion with the Pharisees about what makes someone clean. It comes from an old-time radio broadcast based on Matthew 14-15 and Mark 6-7. And the opening Old Testament quote is from Isaiah 29. But before we get to our story, open your hymnal to number 472, Free from the Law, O Happy Condition, from a February 1953 broadcast.
Free from the law, O happy condition, Jesus hath bled and there is remission. Cursed by the law and bruised by the fall, grace hath redeemed us once for all. Once for all, O sinner, receive it. Once for all, O brother, believe it. Cling to the cross, the burden will fall. Christ hath redeemed us once for all. Children of God, O glorious calling, surely His grace will keep us from falling, passing from death to life at His call. Blessed salvation once for all. Once for all, O sinner, receive it. Once for all, O brother, believe it. Cling to the cross, the burden will fall. Christ hath redeemed us once for all.
And now today's story.
The Pharisees and Unwashed Hands.
Forasmuch as this people drew near me with their mouth, and with their lips glorify me, but their heart is far from me, and they have feared me with the commandments and doctrines of men. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to cause an admiration in this people by a great and wonderful miracle. For wisdom shall perish from their wise men, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid.
The leaders among the Pharisees and Sadducees received the news of the death of John the Baptist with relief and satisfaction. Now their concern was with Jesus, for the reports about him were most disturbing.
Abner, I've just come from Galilee. It is said Jesus fed 5,000 people with a few loaves and fishes, that they tried to make him king.
Scribe, you are late. I know all these things. I have myself come from Capharnaum, where I saw many turn their backs on him when he defined what was the bread of life.
Yes, I heard of it. I did not witness it myself. I was busy elsewhere. I sought out some of the followers of John the Baptist and talked with them.
Yes? What will they do now that John is dead?
They will turn to Jesus, for many of them feel that he is the one for whom John was the messenger. John's fate has in no way halted Jesus.
Tell me this, Scribe. Did not the Pharisees arrange things so that Antipas could seize John?
We have no love for Antipas. He has defied our laws. He has scorned our precepts.
But you find him useful nonetheless. Oh, come, you don't have to play cat and mouse with me.
What do you have in mind, Abner?
Perhaps Antipas could be persuaded to arrest Jesus, as he did John.
Perhaps.
Jesus is a greater threat to Antipas than was John. His chief reason for arresting John was because he was plain spoken about his marriage. Does he not know that the people clamor to make Jesus their king?
Yes, I see.
Then I suggest you go at once to Machaerus. Tell these things to Antipas.
I shall leave at once.
But Antipas had already heard much about Jesus from his spies and informers, and he was greatly troubled in his mind because of him.
This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and that is why miraculous powers are working through him. This is John.
Abner, I've just come from Machaerus. Herod's afraid of his shadow. He'll be of no help to us.
Oh, never mind. Conditions have changed in Capharnaum.
In what respect?
The respectable people, the educated and intelligent, seem to have cooled considerably since we were last here. He's lost many, especially from among the better classes. Oh, plenty of the rabble still cling to him, but he's definitely lost ground.
What's caused it?
That doctrine he preached right after that business with the 5,000. He invited them to partake of his flesh and his blood. Many were scandalized and left the synagogue. In the end, only the usual 12 remained with him. Now we can shift our attack.
What is your plan?
Now we call attention to Jesus' disregard for the formalities. We appeal to class distinctions. We separate the wealthy and the cultured from the poor and the boorish, and make the upper classes aware of the fact they're being led around by a carpenter with his cohort of fishermen, publicans, and whatnots. All the little things they've overlooked in their excitement over miracles, we now drag up for their attention.
Fine. But with what do we begin?
With unclean hands.
Did you say unclean hands?
I did. Come, the meal hour's at hand. Jesus and his disciples will be at the table. I'll show you what I mean.
Abner, why are all these people here?
No, it's always like this when Jesus is in the city.
But do they stand around like this and watch them while they eat?
Always. You never know when some morsel of wisdom might fall from the lips of their rabbi. Come on, let's work our way to the window. Make way, make way!
Just in time. They're starting to eat.
So I see. They all have healthy appetites. But, friend, did you notice how thoroughly they washed their hands before partaking of the bread?
Why, no, Abner, I didn't notice, but I came late. No doubt they purified themselves and the pots and pans most thoroughly.
Rabbi, why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the ancients? For they do not wash their hands when they take food.
Is it not written that when a man come from the market, he first wash his hands? Is it not written that pots and pans and brazen vessels be purified with water?
And is it not written...
Well did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, and in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrine the precepts of men. For letting go the commandments of God, you hold fast the traditions of men, the washing of pots and of cups, and many other things you do like these.
You slander us. We walk in the tradition. We observe the Sabbath.
Do you say it's wrong to wash our hands when we eat?
Well, do you nullify the commandment of God, that you may keep your own tradition?
Not so, Rabbi.
A lie.
For God has said, "Honor thy father and thy mother, and let him who curses father or mother be put to death."
Very true, Rabbi. The law of Moses.
But you say, "Let a man say to his father or his mother, 'Any support thou mightst have had from me is dedicated to God.' If the son does this, then he is freed from his obligation of supporting his parents, and still returns the property for himself. He does not then honor his father and mother."
That is Corban, a gift to God which cannot be put to any other use.
So you have made void the commandment of God by your tradition. Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a man that entering into him can defile him. But the things that come out of a man, these are what defile a man. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear.
He's right.
No, we eat, we live, we die by tradition.
We are hampered by petty rules. Well, Abner, what do you think?
On the whole, the effect will be to our advantage. And to be sure, we were in an awkward position in regard to honoring father and mother.
I sat in on a case only the other day where a mother brought action against her child for support. He declared the money that could have been given to his mother was earmarked for God. What could I do?
Nothing. The man will give nothing to God or to his mother. But Jesus himself pulled us out of that hole by his declaration that nothing that a man eats can defile him. That will ruin him among many of the traders and merchants, the buyers and sellers of meat and fish. He tells them they can eat anything they wish, that washing of hands is not necessary.
And while the Pharisees and many of the crowd withdrew to ponder at what Jesus had said, he returned to his disciples, and there was murmur among them.
The Pharisees have taken offense. They retired in anger. They'll make trouble for us.
What's the meaning of this parable?
Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be rooted up. Let them alone. Blind guides they are of blind men. But if a blind man guide a blind man, both fall into a pit.
But the parable. Explain to us the parable.
Are you also even yet without understanding? Do you not realize that whatever enters the mouth passes into the belly and is cast out into the drain? But the things that proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and it is they that defile a man. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, immorality, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. These are things that defile a man. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile a man.
Forasmuch as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips glorify me, but their heart is far from me, and they have feared me with commandments and doctrines of men. Therefore, behold, I will proceed to cause an admiration in this people by a great and wonderful miracle. For wisdom shall perish from their wise men, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hid.
Thank you for listening to Bible Broadcasts. Enjoy this week's closing hymns.
of dreams that have never found birth, weary of all that the world can afford, I have found rest in my wonderful Lord. Weary of sorrow and weary of mirth, weary of dreams that have never found birth, weary of life that the world can afford, I have found rest in my wonderful Lord. All genius and tasteless the hours when Jesus no longer I see. Sweet prospects, sweet birds, and sweet flowers have all lost their sweetness for me. The midsummer sun shines but dim, the fields strive in vain to look gay. But when I am happy in Him, December's as pleasant as May. His name yields the richest perfume, and sweeter than music His voice. His presence disperses my gloom, and makes all within me rejoice. I should worry always thus by, and nothing to wish or to fear. No mortal so happy as my summer would last all the year. Content with beholding His face, I all to His pleasure resign. No changes of season or place would make any change in my mind. While blessed with the sense of His love, of palace a toy would appear, and prisons with palaces prove, if Jesus would crown with me there. Our Savior has said He is coming again. Oh, wonderful day! He's coming in glory forever to reign. Oh, wonderful day! Oh, wonderful day! Oh, wonderful day! Oh, glorious day! When Jesus comes to reign, we'll sing a glad refrain. Oh, wonderful day! Oh, this lonesome world I roam, with no place to call my home. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I am tired of roaming here in this world of doubt and fear. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I'm gonna join the angels singing where the harps of gold are sweetly ringing. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days. I've a mansion over there in that city bright and fair. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. With my Lord I shall abide over on the glory side. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I'm gonna join the angels singing where the harps of gold are sweetly ringing. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. I'm gonna join the angels singing where the harps of gold are sweetly ringing. I'm gonna settle down in glory some of these days, some of these days. Humble yourself, the bells done rung. Humble yourself, the bells done rung. Oh, praise the Lord. Oh, praise the Lord. Oh, praise the Lord. Oh, praise the Lord. Live humble, humble yourself, the bells done rung. Live humble, humble yourself, the bells done rung. Singing and a shouting, praise the Lord. Singing and a shouting, praise the Lord. On the way to heaven, praise the Lord. On the way to heaven, praise the Lord. Live humble yourself, the bells done rung. Live humble yourself, the bells done rung. Live humble, live humble, live humble, live humble, live humble yourself, the bells done rung. Live I know he'll guide me all the way. Saved by his power divine, saved to new life, to new life sublime. Life now is sweet and my joy is complete, for I'm saved, saved, saved. When poor and needy and all alone, in love he said to me, come unto me and I'll lead you home to live with me eternally. Saved by his power divine, saved to new life sublime. Life now is sweet and my joy is complete, for I'm saved, saved, saved.
Next week on Bible Broadcasts.
And great crowds came to him, bringing with them the dumb, the blind, the lame, the maimed, and many others. And they sat them down at his feet, and he cured them, so that the crowd marveled, and they glorified the God of Israel.
Take a moment to give this podcast a 5-star rating and review. It'll help other people find the show. Thanks.
Oh!